So Matt, we've achieved a certain goal with the podcast, something that I'm quite proud of. We've actually made a YouTube misinformation note with our last podcast.
Yeah, I saw that.
You saw that, did you?
I did, yeah.
YouTube felt that it needed to put an annotation below our video for anyone who watches it, just so that they know when they begin watching that flat Earth is actually scientifically disproven as a theory.
Right.
So we have now been labeled officially as a flat Earth podcast, and God knows what that's going to do for the YouTube search algorithm.
We're just spreading misinformation all over the place. You know, it's part of our duty here.
Yeah, you make one flat Earth joke, and YouTube's all like, "Oh my God, shut it down now."
I mean, admittedly, the title I think that you made it was, you know, the flat earthers were correct or something like that.
Yeah.
So that probably didn't help the situation.
You know, man, I'm trying to work with the algorithm here, and YouTube slapping my hand. Like, come on, what do they want from me? What do they want?
Probably not in misinformation, be my guess.
You know what? I mean, you can't I mean, you can kind of disprove
what do
it.
you mean?
All right, you can disprove it, but I mean, maybe we're all living in virtual reality, okay? So
Yeah.
I mean, maybe
That's the next rabbit hole we could go down.
Exactly. And I want to go down that rabbit hole. PlayStation's bringing their PSVR to PlayStation.
They're bringing their VR to PlayStation?
What did I say? I said the wrong thing.
You said it to PlayStation. You
bringing
meant
it to PC. There's too many.
Damn,
PS,
PlayStation's
PC.
bringing their content to PlayStation.
Breaking
Woo!
news, Matimio. It's finally coming to PlayStation.
It's happening.
The original PlayStation with the disc drive is what I meant to say. If you've got one of those lying around. Yeah, so PlayStation seems to be just like loosening up, I guess.
That's good.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Maybe that is sort of that
especially for
crossplay.
VR.
Yeah, I know. VR's like, do you think VR is going to be like a big thing in 10 years? Do you think anyone's going to be like playing their VR games still? Or
I don't know. I think it might be a combination of AR and VR with like, you know, like the whole Apple Vision thing.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be a combination of all that but right now, I think one of the reasons that VR has been sort of floundering is that everyone wants to carve out their own like
they're trying to dominate the market. They're trying to be the Apple or the Steam of VR. And it's like, there's not that many people with headsets, guys. Like, work together.
And then when you do that, it means that everyone kind of, you know, suffers. Because like, I'm not going to buy 5 different versions of, you know, a headset so that I can play all these different games. Like, just be reasonable. And it's like, I'm not going to, you know, when I buy a PC, it's not like I can only just play, you know, Microsoft games on my PC. This is silly.
No, it's well, and also, have you seen anyone walking around with the Apple headset? I haven't seen a single one in public.
I don't go outside.
Yeah, that was a dumb question on my part, really. Have you seen the sun? That should have been my question.
People? No, I have not.
Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, man, I'm not. It's fun playing a VR game when you get it all set up and you're like kicking around in it for a little bit. And you're like, this is neat and fun. But then you put it down. You're like, do I want to set all that crap up again? Usually the answer for me is nah. Like, that was kind of a pain.
So go back into your original 2 parts. I have seen pictures of people online. There are people that are driving like their Tesla cars with those on, and they get pulled over because you can't do that. There's apparently pictures of people working out with them on in the gym.
Yeah, but that's for the memes, dude. I swear people are just buying the headsets exclusively for the Instagram likes, you know.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yes. It's all for the content. It's all just to like So going back to your original question though, I think that is a big problem. I think the thing that they're going to have to really, and they all know this, is that they need to streamline it so that it isn't so cumbersome, so that you can just grab it, put it on, and you're good, right? Instead of having to like actually set something up, you just put something on really fast, and then you can start playing the games. So it'll probably take a couple years for that to happen. It'll eventually get there, but
Nintendo needs it. That's what the Switch 2 is going to be, right?
There's no way.
The Switch 2 is going to be only VR.
No shot.
Nintendo
that
is
would
crazy.
Definitely push it.
They did already. Do you remember Nintendo's virtual console, the Virtual Boy?
No.
You don't remember the Virtual Boy?
Yeah, I do. I think I do.
They were
God,
the
I
first.
never bought it.
They were the first to adopt the virtual reality as a console. You know, I had a Virtual Boy way back in the day. That thing is very silly. You had to mount it on a desk like that. It was like a tripod, and then you placed your face into it. And that was and then you picked up a controller and you just looked into this
That's so goofy.
Yeah, and then you'd have the ring around your eyes. You're like, and the games were all red. It only had one color.
It's just red?
Yeah.
Why red?
Red and black. That was the two colors you got.
Weird.
Yeah, I don't know, because it was a piece of crap. Like, it was a terrible, terrible product.
The only VR I think the only VR I've ever played was when I went to a theme park like 25 years ago, and it was you walked around and you shot little balls, and you walked up like
Wait, did you say the only? So you don't have a headset right now?
No, I don't. I've never gotten a headset.
Never done it?
Never, ever, ever.
I thought you were a gamer, bro.
I am unfortunately a fake.
All right, my Amazon Prime Twitch subscription is gonna go to somebody else next month.
Damn, bro, do you even subscribe?
When I remember,
when I
get my
remember.
$250. Okay.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
But not anymore.
Yeah. Now, normally I would consider weather a subject that we should generally avoid for a podcast because it's it's small talk when you're waiting for the bus. I don't know. What do people?
Yeah. Well, everyone can relate to the weather, so it's an easy conversation starter. Yeah.
Earlier today, it was just kind of a cold morning. Buckets of hail start coming down. Okay. Then it starts snowing, and now the sun is like blotting out my eyes. I don't know what's happening. Right, I had to close the blinds so I wasn't getting overexposed, which I still am because I didn't close them all the way. But like, I just don't know what's happening right now, dude. This is, you know what it is? Global warming.
Global change.
It's the
pretty sure this is just how weather works.
I don't know, dude. Yeah, it's just weirding me out, man. Okay, like
it is strange. Weather patterns are bizarre. There's cold fronts, warm fronts, and they move around.
I just want some consistency. Also, I
don't blame you.
I've never the weather app up here, like when you're like, what's the weather going to be like today? Has not been right a single day this year.
To be honest, I don't know how you're going to be able to predict, slightly cold into hail, into snow, into sun. Like that's going to be pretty tricky to predict.
Yeah. Yeah. Weathermen up here are just like losing their minds. They're like, I don't know, man. Rain?
Just flip a coin.
Yeah. Boy, oh boy. So what have you been playing?
All sorts of games. The one thing I did want to talk about, though, is did you hear anything about Rainbow Six Siege's season or year 9?
No.
So first of all, they had the most concurrent viewers, I believe, and players, I feel as well, like ever, for their recent, for their recent tournament, which is pretty crazy when you think about it.
Yeah.
Because that game is, year 9 now. And there was a couple years ago, it was struggling. They got, at least on Steam, they were getting down to like, 30,000 concurrent, which is still good. It's respectable, but nowhere near where they were in their heyday. And now it's like slowly, steadily been rising.
Are you coming back, Matt? Is that what you're announcing?
Are we back? Probably not. No, not full time like I used to, but I could see myself jumping in.
Yeah.
So the one thing is that the year 9 is kind of like, do you remember Operation Health when the game originally came out? There was a season where they dedicated to simply, we need to shore up our game, get the infrastructure all good. Well, they're kind of doing that for the entire year, sort of. So I don't think there's going to be any new maps, which is probably fine considering that game has already a ton of maps. And if you're jumping in, it's already impossible to learn them.
We've talked about this before. Yeah. It's not fun jumping in a siege as a new player.
Right. They are going to be bringing 2 new characters. Deimos is one of them, who's like the big villain. You now will be able to play him. There'll be a second one, and then they're doing 2 reworks of operators. One of them they're alluding to is Blackbeard, and then there's going to be another one after that. So they're kind of like just
Blackbeard.
They're toning it down a bit.
He's my class. He's my noob class where I'm just like,
what do he originally came out
about stuff with?
Yeah, he's no longer the powerhouse he once was, and his entire design is completely flawed.
Right. Is his beard like open up holes in walls now or something?
Well, no, because they haven't really changed him since his
okay. He's still got his little
inception.
his shield.
He has a shield, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And so it can absorb like one round now, like literally one. Which in a game where one round is all it takes, it can't help.
At noob level though, that's not as valuable when you're spraying and praying. Yeah. At top level, if it stops a headshot, then great. You know,
it can't help. Right. Yeah. But he's got a lot of recoil, and he's just not the best. So it sounds like they're going to be reworking him. But the really big changes is that they're trying to slow down the game. It's been a TDM meta for a really long time, where it's because of the one shot.
How are they going to slow it down?
Literally by slowing down your aim down sight speed.
Yeah.
Literally. Like across the board. So they're also removing the 1.5 times optic. So you're not going to be able to use that anymore. The 1.5 2 times optics are gone. They're slowing it down. And this will hopefully mean that you need to use maybe tactics a little bit more when playing the game that's all about using tactics.
Interesting. I'm down for that. I like the idea of slower moving players, you know, so what?
The players aren't necessarily moving slower.
You can still run slower then?
The aim down sight speed is moving slower.
Oh, that's what they're doing.
So,
okay.
Yeah. Okay. So like aiming down, so you can't just run into a free speed operator, run in and then aim down sight and just gun everyone down. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. That's an interesting way to throw some power back to more slow, methodical gameplay for sure.
Yeah.
Since the headshots are still so valuable in that game. They're still locked in on that headshot meta though, right? Or
they are. I don't see that going anywhere at this point. Like I think it would make the game probably more interesting, but it also could just completely ruin its identity entirely. And
they stuck with that for so long, and I was like vehemently against it from the start. I was like, you're throwing all your weapon balance out the window. Just one shot headshots for everything. Like people aren't going to use DMRs. It's just going to be like SMG meta. Like it's going to be insane. Yeah. And it was like all of those things at one point. I don't know if they fixed it, but they just stuck with it. They're like, it's what we do. One shot to the head. Really? Even if you're Tachanka and somebody shoots a 22 caliber pistol at him, like they wouldn't do anything. Nope. One shot dead. Okay.
So I get it. I know that's not, but it is the identity of Siege, and I don't see it going anywhere. And necessarily at this point, I don't even think it would be a good thing.
But they haven't done this yet. So why is the game coming back all of a sudden? Why are people all like...
That's a great question. I think one of the big reasons is the streamer Jinxie. Have you heard about him at all?
Yeah. You've mentioned him on the podcast like 3 times now, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, my bad. Yeah. He's just amassed, like he gets like 100,000 viewers.
Yeah.
Which is insane. Like that alone is just like an incredible amount of promotion for the game. Like 100,000
concurrent on Siege. That's wild.
Yeah, insane. So I don't think it's all just him. That would be naive to say that they're over at Ubisoft that they're not doing their job.
The power of a good streamer making your game look amazing, man. I mean, too many games in history have blown up because of like a dude playing it. Yeah.
So I think that's a big role. And I think there's just some hype around the new season. I mean, the new year. So everyone always gets excited for the new year. Now, the only issue is that when you watch all this content about what's coming, it's like, oh yeah, all this looks great, but it's over a year. It's not going to happen like in a month. It's over the entire year, which I feel will diminish said hype a little bit once people kind of realize.
What is this? Star Citizen or something? Trickling out your content slowly over the course of 1,000 years.
I'm hoping that Siege is, it's back, baby. We're back.
I mean, the fact that they're doing year 9 in itself is a testament to any game, let alone a multiplayer game. Like multiplayer games don't survive to year 9. Are you kidding me? Like, so that's pretty impressive in itself. Maybe they're just going to power through, because even Counter-Strike had its years where people are like, I don't know if it's going to be the future of esports. It just wasn't as popular, but then it's surged back up in this like massive way. Maybe Siege has got that surge coming ahead of it.
Yeah, it could very well be. I'm just impressed that they took the risk of like they went with the 1.5 times optic. And it didn't work out. And they're like, okay, it's been a couple of years. We realized that this was a mistake, and now they're removing it. A couple
of years. Good on them. Give it a good old couple of years. See if
see
if it's fun. And then you know what? It turns out it was a terrible idea. So, roll it back. That's a couple of years later.
couple years later.
Only 2 years of shitty game
well,
mechanics.
the optic just it allowed you to excel up close and at long range, which is the reason why it doesn't make sense in a game where it's like you have to have the options like min max.
I do like that Rainbow is such a nuanced game now, where you're talking about like a 1.5 times optic, which in any other FPS, nobody cares. What are you talking about?
Nobody cares.
Great. It doesn't make any difference. But in Rainbow, it's like a contentious issue because that the meta is so set and firm, and the people that know the ways how to play, like that makes a huge difference in how you can play the game. And it is cool that they're at that point. It's like Counter-Strike's similarly at the point where you can't just go in there and change a mechanic. Like the whole game will be upset. People will quit. The offices will get burned down. Like you can't just change stuff. It's all been refined to an art form. And I think Siege is sort of trying to get in that direction. So yeah, maybe this year of optimizations and refinement and whatnot will dial it in to something that's a little more,
and I would imagine this would become the new norm.
Friendly. You know,
I would imagine this would become the new norm too. I don't think they're going to go back to 4 operators a year. I think it's actually probably a good thing that they're slowing it down.
Shouldn't. Yeah.
Because it's like at some point it does need to be not necessarily maintenance mode, but you can only add so much to a game before it's just overloaded with content where it's just like, it's almost too much. Yeah. Right. It needs to stand on its own for its own sake, not just because it's getting new content. Like Counter-Strike gets content every once in a while, but it's standing on its own legs because it's Counter-Strike and the gameplay loop is so good. And I'd like to see Siege get to that point where it can just maintain itself just because the gameplay loop is so solid.
It really, really just needs NFT skins at this point. You know?
Hot anime skins. That's what we need.
Anime skins. It needs skins that go up in value, that are so insanely rare that you can sell them on a third-party auction house for $100,000. They did
add the ability to buy and sell skins now.
Oh shit! Some CEO over there, big brains, was like, I've got an idea with dollar signs in his eyes.
You don't get money. You get the credits for like the Rainbow Six credits.
Yeah. You don't get money in their launcher, but there's got to be a third-party site already, right? I have
no idea. I haven't looked into it. I would hope not, because that would just be gross.
Get your skins, baby. You got all those OG skins. Those are going to be worth $1 million, Matt.
Yeah, millions of dollars.
Dang, dude, you're gonna have a Ferrari by this time next year. Some diamond sunglasses.
I don't know about that. But some of those are selling for an unbelievable amount of like the equivalent in credits to money is quite high.
Yeah,
quite.
They're gonna get that third-party system figured out. It's probably, I hate to say it, but it's probably in Ubisoft's best interest, because that kind of stuff does well for IPs like that. All of a sudden, people get attracted to this game has this value outside of the game. It is gross. I agree. I'm just saying, if I were them, being an evil company, then I would do it. Evil. Okay, Ubisoft isn't that bad, but they're kind of doing a bunch. They're being a bunch of EAs, some weird things. Is what they are. They're being a bunch of EAs.
They're a company. They want to make money, and they're going to do everything they can to make money.
Yeah, speaking of making moolah.
Oh.
Want to talk about some Star Citizen, baby?
Don't I?
You're like, tell me.
Yes.
There's been some controversy in the Star Citizen world lately. This usually happens in between long stints, in between interesting content. We find a way to get upset about something, but
of course, as the internet does,
CIG always does a dumb thing. It's very reliable at this point that CIG is going to do something stupid.
Okay.
So spaceships are the main money generator in Star Citizen, always have been. The big spaceships that sell for an insane amount, $1,300, $1,500, just crazy amount. That's directly from the store, not in an auction house after the fact.
Right.
There's a big ship, the biggest that will be player flyable when it launches, is the Idris, and they've been hinting at it coming out very soon. It's supposed to launch before Squadron 42. People are sort of predicting when it's going to come out. They've sort of pseudo launched it into the game. but it's through a weird event where if you just happen to be on the right server at the right time, a mission will pop up that says capture the Idris, and then you have to like coordinate with like 30 players to try and go capture an Idris that's being probably run by developers, and then board this massive ship, kill the people on board in like some epic firefight, and then take it from them, which sounds awesome.
It does sound awesome, yeah.
And it is awesome from watching the few videos of people who've captured content of it. The problem is that like nobody's able to do this because it's like a random event that happens at some random time. So this is like super hype shit for the game. Everybody's been excited about it for like 10 years. No, probably not exaggerating on that number. It's like 9 or 10 years. Like a really long time. And they're like, check it out, maybe. So there's people that were waiting around for like 4 hours, 5 hours, just hoping to find an event that popped off. It didn't. Then they tied it into a ship sale for the Idris to make some money off of it.
Of course.
Then also, if you, I think it's like if you record a cool clip or something of attacking the Idris or sieging it and submit it, you can then win an Idris. So of course, the player base is going crazy to try and get on. So it's no longer a joyful experience for many. It's now we gotta win the Idris, guys. And so
how much money does it cost to purchase?
Somewhere around $1,300 or $1,500. I don't know.
So you spend $1,300 and then some guy just wins it in the game.
Yeah, but I think they're only giving away one. So I mean,
okay, so it's not super easy. Gotcha.
Yeah. But nonetheless, everybody's pretty pissed off about the event because they're like, this should have been a cool thing for everyone. And you've turned it into a nightmare experience for a few.
Right. Now, for the people that captured the Idris, do they get it as well?
No. You get to fly it and shoot people with it, but as soon as somebody... So it's just a
cool event. Well, so it sounds like it could have been a really cool event, especially if it was developers that were piloting it and all that. That sounds actually really cool, but... Yeah, on a larger scale, when you have more than just a couple hundred people, you got thousands of people wanting it. It's just that's not sustainable.
Yeah, and they hyped it up with a bunch of stuff ahead of time, making it seem like everybody was going to be able. I don't know. It was just poor taste on CIG's part, and whatever. Now the next controversy with the game is that they're about to redesign all the flight mechanics for every single ship in the entire game. With the next patch, it's called Master Modes, changes up all the combat of the game. And a lot of the top pilots now who have been playing in the game forever are like, this actually is not good for the skill curve, and it makes it less enjoyable for people on high skill. And so that's the new controversy is it's sort of...
You're dumbing down the game. Newbies are going to do better.
I can't say whether or not they are dumbing it down because I have not gotten into Master Modes enough to test it out. The testing experience is not particularly enjoyable, so I've avoided it. But that's sort of
how much are they changing it to the point where it is going to reduce the skill ceiling by that much?
Huge, dude. Okay, so
so it is a big change.
One of the bigger changes is every weapon in the game will come equipped with gimbals, which means it can auto target within a cone of fire on your screen.
Okay.
Where before you would have to downsize your weapon to make it gimbaled, and so you would get a major damage reduction. Now they're kind of giving everything gimbals, and you can turn it on or off. And if you turn it off, you'll get a rate of fire increase. And if you turn it on, you get a rate of fire reduction, but you get auto aim. And so sort of an argument there is like before, a really good pilot in a light fighter, which can take almost no shots before it dies, could essentially evade almost all the incoming fire of an inexperienced pilot, and then take out even a group of inexperienced pilots with their light fighter. Now those inexperienced pilots are gonna have a lot more auto aim compensation. So even if their DPS is lower, they're gonna start piling on the DPS, and the experienced pilot will not be able to get as much done. I think within.
I mean, we all know why they're doing this, right?
Yeah, they're making it so it's enjoyable for
the majority of people.
Yeah. I'm actually not advocating against the change. I'm more just curious about how it's going to evolve over the next years. Because I think maybe when it launches, sure, it might not be as good for the experienced pilots. But as they evolve it, they might find other ways to make it more enjoyable for
I wouldn't be
pilots.
surprised because, you know, you get Battlefield pilots and, you know, the game is relatively simple, but man, some of those Battlefield pilots eventually just, they know the nuance and just every little thing. And it just becomes, they're unkillable.
You never can beat them.
Right.
Yeah. I remember
I would not be surprised.
BF1, you remember the attack plane in BF1, the 2-seater?
Yep.
So there's somehow you can fly it. I don't know. You get the right speed, the perfect speed, and you can turn it faster than a fighter, the small single-seater. So I kept losing these dogfights to a guy in an attack plane because he had just figured out the right way to turn that thing.
The right turns, you know.
I couldn't out-turn him, and I was like, what is happening right now? He's figured out the weird meta in there. So even in a simple, more arcadey game like Battlefield, the skill difference in flight mechanics over just the FPS skill differences, it's significantly higher in almost every flight game. And it's hard because Star Citizen has that, like, you've got your dual joysticks, you've got all your peripherals. It attracts that, like, that DCS crowd, the hardcore flight sim crowd. And those games have got like 1,000-hour onboarding experiences sometimes for just getting good. And you can't have that with a game that's selling 4, 5, 6 million copies. You know, it needs to appeal to the casuals.
Right. And so I get why they're upset. And I'm not saying that they're not, like, those concerns aren't valid, because I get it. Like, you put all this time in the game and you've gotten good, and then they're going to kind of dumb it down a little bit. Yeah. I would be very surprised if they dumb it down to the point where there's no skill ceiling and it's all just on rails. I don't see that happening for Star Citizen. But I also understand why because, like you said, this is going to be a game that is going to be selling potentially to millions of people. And if your average player is just getting absolutely thrashed because the controls are just too difficult, or it's going to take, you know, tens upon tens of hours to get involved and halfway decent, they're going to leave.
Yeah, for sure. And it sucks because I have friends who are on the high skill side of the game who are sort of against some of these changes. And I feel like I'm right down the middle, and I'm more sort of advocating for, like, yeah, let's just see how it goes, because I want this game to be successful more than I want it to be just a high skill playground for, like, the most dedicated players, you know?
Right.
And PvP should be something that most people want to dip their toes into and have some fun with, and not feel like it's something they have to work up to. You know, I don't want to jump into Call of Duty and feel like I need to play 1 billion practice rounds before I can jump into Warzone or something. Like, you just want to be able to jump in and have fun right away. So hopefully Star Citizen can achieve that.
Feel like you have somewhat of a chance.
Yeah. Yeah, right. That's the thing with an FPS game, is like, you can have a great player in your lobby and you can still kill them. Like, you might just come up behind them, get a good drop on them, whatever. And you're like, hey, I don't feel completely incapable of downing the superior player. But in flying games, it's like,
not happening.
Yeah,
it's not happening at all.
Yeah, you could fight them 100 times in a row.
Even if you do dumb it down, they're probably still not going to be able to take out the really good player.
Yeah, yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, man, they're moving toward the biggest patch of, like, the game's history. And I'm just sort of like, I've got my bucket of popcorn, and I'm like, this is gonna be good one way or the other, man. Don't know what's gonna happen.
I hope it turns out well, and I do hope that the skill ceiling isn't just completely demolished, because I do think having, especially in a more sandbox game like that, having some skill ceiling is important.
Yeah, and it for sure will not be demolished. It'll be adjusted, I think, and they'll just find other ways to eke out the skill above other players, you know, as opposed to just pure accuracy and pure speed. It'll come down to other nuanced mechanics, you know, because there's 1,000 inputs for the game already. Like, just learn the inputs really good and you beat the new guy, right?
Yeah,
and the new guy's like, what's the button for, like, the right countermeasure? Oh, I'm dead, you know? And there you go.
Yep.
I love games with billions of inputs, don't you?
No. Though I do play Tarkov, so kind of, maybe.
Yeah. You know what I want to talk about, but I haven't played, but I see that you've played, because I'm a Diablo fan. I think do you remember us staying up for the, like, Diablo 3 launch? Remember what a disaster that was?
Yes. I mean, hard to forget the air boss.
Yeah.
Was like Air 33.
Legendary poor launch of Diablo 3. I think we were supposed to like team up for that or something, and we were just sitting around for hours. The last Epoch. It's been in early access for a while, right? But it
5 years, something like that.
1.0 launch.
They had the 1.0 update,
and it's an action RPG,
it's fun.
Like Diablo.
Yeah. It's 100% like Diablo, but so first of all, I believe I haven't dived super deeply into it, so I'm not an expert on the game.
Yeah.
But they get you kind of going, and they get you, trying out different specs and trying out different abilities pretty quickly, and you start to feel pretty strong, and then you can start getting some, pretty crazy builds going, especially late game, and you can actually get like items that do things to your character that isn't just 2% more damage, which is nice, where you actually feel like you're making steady progress. I also think, and I might be spreading misinformation here, but there's like a solo mode where you can literally play solo, and then I think it will increase your drop chance because it knows that you won't be able to trade with others. It knows you won't be able to play with others, and it will make it so that you're more likely to get good items on like a faster basis.
It's supposed to have an offline mode. I believe it's got. So is that what you mean, the offline mode?
I think it's like an offline solo mode. Yeah.
Which is smart, because I think they were having some server problems because it exploded.
Yeah, I was trying to play off stream a little bit, and I just got stuck on. Well, I would be able to get in. It was difficult task in of itself, and then I would try to load into a new zone, which happens all the time, and it would just take like 5 minutes. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna stop, because I'm not gonna. Every 2 minutes I got to go into a new loading screen would be obnoxious. Yeah.
So what I've heard, just through reading some general reviews of the game, was like, it doesn't treat you like a dum-dum like Diablo 4 does, where they don't give you all the stats that you want. So you're sort of guessing about exactly how the stats work in your gear and items and stuff. And it's not you don't need a spreadsheet like you might with
Path of Exile. So it's like they've been described as the best of both worlds, basically. And I think a lot of people are enjoying that. Yeah, it's a solid game. It's not AAA quality, and like I don't even think the story is necessarily done. The story is interesting. What I think is really cool is that it is a time traveling game where you will travel back and forward in time to different eras. Like one is like prehistoric almost, I feel, and then there like you have like modern, and the landscape and the map changes depending on the time period, which I think is a really cool idea.
Can you go into the future?
You go into the future, but it's called like the end of time, and everything is like there's like a black hole in the background, and it's cool.
That's cool, man. I like that's original, at least, as opposed to just like the Dark Emperor is here and he is corrupting the lands. Yeah.
I mean, there is still like a corruption void thing going on.
Maybe I'm talking to the wrong guy over here with your thousands of fantasy novels on the back shelf. Is that basically the premise for most of them? Is like the bad guy is here and he's got some spells and crap, and
not usually, no. I mean, some of them are, yeah, but no. It's a trope, but it's not one that's used very often nowadays. So yeah, I think it's a good game. I didn't put enough time into it to really give you a deep dive impressions or anything, but if you're looking for a solid made ARPG and Diablo just didn't do it for you, I'd recommend checking it out. It's like $30, $35, relatively cheap, and tons of classes. There's like 50. So there's, I think there's 15 subclasses, which is pretty wild. There's like paladins, void knight, sorcerer, rune master, druid, lich. It's crazy. So if you can really kind of have all these different
probably adds a ton of replayability to it, where you're just like, I'm not feeling this class. Let me just re-roll, and here I am as this dude now. That's cool.
And I don't think it takes as long to really kind of get going too. You do need to put a lot of time in. It's an ARPG. It's all about the grind, all about getting loot. That's going to take time, but it does feel like it's not as like insane as some like Path of Exile and Diablo. Like you really got to put everything into it. Just I will say,
I wish, and I haven't played it, but I've seen videos on it. I wish ARPGs would take a little more creative freedom with the visual style. Because looking at it, it looks like Diablo 3 at a glance, like Diablo 3 or Diablo 4 rather.
I also think it looks like Path of Exile in a lot of ways too.
Yeah, exactly. You could look at all three of those games, and if you weren't intimately familiar with them, you would be forgiven for mistaking them all as the same game.
Why do they like the ball UI thing for health and mana? Like, have you noticed that? It's always a circle.
Yeah, that became just like I think Diablo 2 did it, and then everybody was like, that's what we do now.
It just looks like that every single game.
Yeah. And all the way the bad guys die, all the animations, all the particle effects, everything is just, it's all stylistically the same. And it's like, somebody come up with a different style. Like, not all FPSs have the same style. There's weird, cool cell shading stuff going on. There's whatever, do a different style. Like, I mean, what's that cool rogue? Hades. They mixed it up. They came up with their own style. That was cool. Like,
and now people are copying their style.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I don't know. I saw it and I was like, I do want to play this. It looks neat, but it also looks identical to Diablo 4, just about, or Path of Exile. Yeah.
I couldn't give you a really good idea of like how different it is by the end, but like I said, if you're looking for something like it does what it does pretty well.
Yeah, I don't think people are looking for too many other evolutions within the ARPG genre.
Probably not.
I think they just want refinements, which seems like is what this game is doing.
Speaking of stuff that is doing something a little bit different, have you heard anything about Pacific Drive at all?
We talked about it last podcast.
Do you know like the premise of the end game and everything?
Not the end game. I don't know what the premise of the end game is, but so last podcast you described it as you sort of get sucked into this weird island area. You're in a car. You're sort of upgrading the tech on your car as you go.
Yep.
Weird things pull you into the forest.
So I played. So I must have talked about the demo. I'm assuming.
Yeah. Did you forget?
It was
did
the
you
demo.
Leave your brain?
I straight up talk about games all the time. I have such a hard time remembering what I talked about on this podcast. So played the actual full game. Yeah. Completely forgot the demo was a thing. Yeah. So I played the full game. Now I feel stupid because apparently I'm old now and I can't remember what I talked about just a week ago.
Well, you take your pills after the podcast.
I got to take my pills, yeah. And it's pretty fun, but it also has some pretty big flaws. So like you said, you upgrade your car, you go out on these drives and you get loot and you bring it back to your like home base and you get, better car parts, cool abilities and stuff like that. The problem, the thing that I did not know about though, is there's no manual save in the middle of a run. And so it kind of has a roguelike quality to it, where you go out, you're not sure what you're necessarily going to get, what loot what biome you're going to get and things like that. And some of them can take a while. These drives, you go to like different, there's like different sectors, right? So you keep going further and out. And it can take like an hour and a half. I think one time it was like 2 hours.
No save over an hour and a half.
And I lost. I got stuck on a rock when I was trying to get to the extract because the game was like, okay, here's the quest. You touched like these buttons, and then it was like, okay, now you got to leave. And I didn't realize I needed to leave. And so I got stuck on a rock for about 30 seconds. And even then, even if I didn't get stuck on it, it was so far away, the exit, that I lost.
That's a game design.
Yeah, I completely agree. So I lost literally all of the resources that I had gathered over like an hour and a half. And it was
I would put a game down after that for sure. Yeah.
Oh, I thought about it right then. I was like, ooh, that's a flaw. People are also complaining like, hey, I have a life and I didn't realize that on this mission it was going to take so long and I had to stop, and then they came back to it not realizing that their game didn't save and they lost all their progress.
Another
or at least for that run.
Yeah. It's weird because I'm conflicted because I do like games that like I'm a big fan of Stalker. Stalker does let you save, but you can kind of get lost in it where it doesn't auto save that much for you. And so if you're not aware of how often you're saving,
you can lose some progress.
Yeah, you'll get stuck in a mission. You're like, holy crap, I just killed 18 guards in this base. This is getting real. Like, this is crazy. And then like somebody will sneak up behind you and take you out. And you're like, dang, wait, how long Oh man, I was just playing for like an hour, 2 hours.
Yeah.
Dang, I'm going way back in my save. And to an extent, I do like some of the risk reward mechanics there, but it's got to be well designed, balanced, and it's also got to be communicated, you know, where...
Yeah, that was the thing, is I didn't realize it, and the mission wasn't really communicating, like, once you do these things, you're going to have to go across the map and, like, extract.
Yeah.
So I just wasn't prepared for it, and it was a real kick in the shin.
Yeah, it's got to, like, tell you before you begin the mission of, like, this is, like, you got to do this all in one run. You don't get to go take a break or, like... or do something else and come back to it later. Like, this is it. Like, get ready, you know? It's like a raid in a video game or something. Like, it's like, everybody ready? Have we all gone to the bathroom? Okay, here we go, you know? And that's...
It did do some cool things. Being able to upgrade your car and make it go faster with, like, a better engine and scavenge around.
Innovative.
I know.
Messing with
but
you.
it was neat, though, to, like, this was like my baby, and it was being upgraded, and it was cool because before a mission, you would need to, like, get ready for it. It kind of reminded me of Escape from Tarkov, but even more so, where, like, it's raining outside, and you know, you're in your workshop, you're getting all the resources so that when you do go out, you've got sealing kits, mechanical kits, electrical kits, making sure all those boxes are checked. And it just feels good to kind of go through the motions, and then you're prepared for your mission. And that's nice.
That's like the core appeal of those types of games, those sort of survival games, is like getting your kit in order, right? Is like Sons of the Forest 1.0 just launched. And a big part of that game is similar, where you want to build your little base, your fort, your cabin. You want to get the defenses set up properly so those dang cannibals can't ambush you, you know, and tie you up in the middle of the night. But you're trying to get it all set together so that when you get your call, your next mission, or you want to go out, you're like, okay, what am I going to take here? I need some water. I need some food. I need my crossbow, you know, and it's just that process of it that's a really appealing element of all those games, you know. So whether it's Tarkov or Stalker or Pacific Drive, so it sounds like they nailed that part of the game.
They did, but they also don't respect your time at all in the game.
Yeah.
So not only because of the whole save thing, but also once you get to the end, you have to go through like 5-6 zones where so the way it works is you basically go to like junctions, right? And you reach a location, then you have to drive in that location to the destination, then drive to the next one. So you're basically just driving to the end of the game.
Wait, you don't like Euro Truck Simulator?
It basically turns into that to some extent, but with anomalies around. And there are some cool anomalies. Some will make your car go like super fast and like slam into walls. There'll be some that will cause like your car to like literally fly through the air for a second. It's so
funny. It sounds like Stalker, but the car version.
Yeah.
Because that's what Stalker is. You're walking and all of a sudden there's an anomaly and it like rips your legs off or something. You're like, oh God.
Yeah. And I think that they were trying to get you to then like gather resources along the way. But if you're just trying to like complete the story and like your car is pretty upgraded by this point, it's like, I just want to get to the end. But the final mission, just to get to the location for the final mission, driving took like 30 minutes, 15 to 30 minutes to just driving to get there.
Maybe they thought people would enjoy the driving a lot more or something.
Maybe.
You didn't get your wheel set up for it?
And no, I didn't get a wheel for it. I don't know if it does have wheel support. It probably does.
Put on VR goggles, and put on your blinkers and stuff, you know, get all your stuff.
And the driving was fun, but it just blew me away because there would also be missions where you would need to drive to the junction to then be able to then... So you drive all the way out there, which, you know, as you were gathering resources, could take you like 45 minutes if you're actually playing the game.
Yeah.
And then that only gives you then the ability to then go down that same route again to get to the next junction. So you have to do it twice.
That's really disappointing because it sounds like these devs were very much onto something conceptually where they had like a really good idea and just didn't quite know how to pace it properly or something.
Yeah, the pacing felt off. And this is my problem with a lot of survival games nowadays is it's if your game is good, you don't need to pad it. Like, stop padding it with resource gathering, like to the you know, the craziest degree. Why do I need to drive the same route twice just to get to my destination at the end of the day? Like, why is that a thing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's speaking of padding. I haven't played it, but I believe you played it, the Nightingale game.
Yeah,
I've seen a lot of the grindy stuff in that. I watched, I don't know, 10 minutes of gameplay, and it was just resource gathering, and I was like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, so I did play Nightingale, and it was fine, but man, I played for 6 to 7 hours, and at the end, I had a little, basically square house with some base refinement inside, and that was all I had.
Yeah, so
like, I didn't really get a lot going.
That's so common in games now, where they're like, so I mean, really, if we took out all this gathering, you would just build a house and then go kill this guy over here. So we need to make this gathering take forever, you know, so that by the time you kill that guy over there, ooh, it feels like you earned it, you know? And it's like, is that gameplay though? At the end of the day,
like I get that realistically, you'd have to chop down a lot of trees to be able to make a house.
Yeah.
But man, to make this little like 4x4 little house, I had to chop down like tens upon tens of trees. I'm like, this is annoying. Like, do I really need to go through this extensive process? And it got to the point where I was like, if I wanted to build something big, and maybe later on, maybe you get some upgrades or something that makes this entire process, you know, not as tedious. It is the beginning of the game, and I know that that's usually pretty slow, but yeah, I wanted to like really get into the base building, but as soon as I played and I just experienced the basic, you know, making a small little house, my interest started to wane right then and there, because it was just like so much gathering.
It's kind of a shame because the concept art, the artwork, the trailer stuff for Nightingale, it looks neat. It's kind of got that fun kind of like steampunk vibe going to it.
Yeah, for sure.
And I was down to give it a try.
Same.
And then I saw the gameplay and immediately knew I wasn't going to enjoy it. I was like, oh no, like this looks like a fun idea for a world that's just like, now gather stuff forever. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. And I don't mind gathering for this, because it can be fun, and it's almost therapeutic gathering resources and bringing them back to your base.
Yeah,
if it's done well. But I think that a lot of, and this is true for Pacific Drive, is, you know, all these survival games lately, it's just been way too much gathering, like hundreds of resources. It's like, just come on.
Yeah,
it doesn't need to be this padded.
Yeah. Also, Nightingale is I mean, the advertising makes it look a little more action-packed, you know? And I know they have dungeons and stuff like that, but
they do.
If you watch the trailer, I wasn't expecting it to be such a gather-intensive game from the trailer. Like, I saw that there's crafting stuff, but I didn't expect it to be like...
The combat's okay.
Yeah.
There is combat, but it kind of devolves into, you get swarmed by a ton of enemies, and you just kind of have to keep dodging out of the way and swinging your sword or whatever you're using, and hope that they don't get you completely surrounded. It's not terrible. It was actually pretty competent for a first person melee combat, but it also wasn't exceptional.
Gotcha. Do you think it's got legs, or you think it's gonna kind of dry up?
I don't know. I watched some reviews of what it's like at like Endgame, and apparently it's a big. It might have legs. This is the foundation, right? This is early access, and they could always change some things, but it's one of those situations where you have to gather resources to make something, so that you can then you use that material that you've made to then use multiple of those materials to then make another material, and then multiple of those materials to make the final material that you need to be able to craft it into whatever you want. So you go from like 100 wolf pelts that then go down into making whatever you're trying to make, you know, over the course of all these different like assembly line, like your Satisfactory or something like that, right?
Yes, Satisfactory, like but in steampunk. I think they probably have a game like that already.
And it's probably not automatic, or you know, you have to sit there, and they're going to be adding in, and I don't know why more survival games don't have this, where if it's in your base, just let me craft it. If like I've got resources in a box, don't make me go over to the box and pick them up. Just let me go over to my station, and if it's nearby, just let me use those resources. But it's not in the game yet. It will eventually, but it's not there yet.
Yeah. Yep. A lot of quality of life stuff. Yeah. It's weird. I don't know what to expect from those games from the trailer sometimes. And then you load up and you're like, oh, this is not the vision I was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
Or trailer communication. Hey, you want to learn something? Just
every day. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, last podcast we were talking about space stations and simulating gravity in space stations.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I did this and I was like swinging. See, I can remember things from last podcast. I'm not completely dumb at this point.
We're talking about the classic bicycle wheel design of spinning the space station to create centrifugal force to simulate gravity. Well, apparently that was tested. The Russians tested it, and the results. And this is for a commenter in our last video who was like, "Hey, dummies." He didn't say that, but I felt he wanted to. I could tell.
I mean, I am dumb, so.
From Dwarf Warrior Games. Yeah, that guy. He was like, basically, he listed out the experiment that they did. And the thing we were wondering about is if it would make you sick to be stuck on the outside of a bicycle wheel spinning in space.
Yeah.
And apparently it does make a lot of people sick. So it messes with the equilibrium. But they also said that some people were less affected by it, and it seemed like you could also maybe train your brain to work around it.
If you were in it for a while.
Yeah, which does make sense. I don't know if you haven't done VR really, but there's some games in VR where I was talking with operator Drewski about this because we were going to play a flight sim together, and he's like, spend a day in it before we link up together because you're going to need to sort of get your VR flight equilibrium stuff adjusted. And I was like, what are you talking about? And sure enough, first day I'm like, oh, I don't feel good, dude. I've been doing this for an hour and I don't feel good at all.
Terrible.
Next day, loaded up. I'm like, actually, this is not too bad. Still not feeling great. But then like by the third time, I'm not really bothered by it. Like it's still not necessarily what I would call an overly pleasant feeling, but I wasn't getting sick to my stomach by it. So I think the brain can do a lot of equilibrium adjustments, which is cool.
Yeah.
But it would suck to get up to a space station and just puke your guts out for a while.
Right. Well, what's hard is when when it's your inner ear that's freaking out, because that's actually a physical thing happening to your body, which is supposed to indicate that something's wrong.
Yeah. And you just have to slowly be like, hey, brain, like this is
normal now.
This is the new norm. Just get used to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, but it means that if somebody built a cool space station, was like, come on up, people. Like,
we just need to make gravity wells. Like, why aren't we doing that? It's obviously the play. Like, come on, scientists, just make gravity wells.
Do you know how many sci-fi movies, books, whatever, what have you, rely on artificial gravity, and we have no concept for how that would actually work? Like
I was reading. So I'm reading Red Rising, which is sci-fi, and it's incredible. I just finished off the 4th book, but there's a fight scene where they start switching on the gravity for themselves and only themselves in a hallway. Oh yeah. And they start like going up and down. So instead of it being a normal hallway, they're like using it to go up and down and like using blades. It's sick. It's an incredible scene. But the idea of being able to have a personal gravity field just around you that only affects you to get you onto a ceiling and then back down is like the idea of that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's insane.
I like the concept of it. And what's funny is in most sci-fi stuff, when they say, hey, we have artificial gravity, and then it's sort of a don't worry about it type situation. You go, the second you start to explore that technology, you're like, you could be doing so much more with this than just walking around in a space station. So yeah, it is funny that we need that for most of our sci-fi universes to function properly. And there's no good explanation for it. That and wormholes, basically, because because even if you could travel at the speed of light, which scientifically seems impossible, basically, and time would slow down and stop. And if you could get anywhere, everybody you knew would be dead by the time you get back, all those fun conundrums. But even if you could travel the speed of light, it would still take you 4 years to get to the closest solar system to ours.
It's wild how much space is out there.
Yeah. So none of the space games or movies or whatever, like you need faster than light travel. And we don't really have any good ideas for how that would work other than being like, I don't know, it's a wormhole. And like, even I think Hawking and Einstein already were like, yeah, there's no way you could transfer matter through a wormhole. They like did the math for it and were basically debunked it. They're like, yeah, sorry, it's not a hole. It
may very well be. It may very well be why we don't know, or we like civilizations in the universe. If there is a civilization out there, we'll just never know about it, and they'll never know about us because it just may be physically impossible. And there's no technology that can ever be created that will allow you to be able to travel that far, ever.
I believe there's. What about quantum space, Matt?
Oh, quantum space. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I'm just saying.
I'm just kidding.
It could be like, completely.
That's what they used to explain, like, faster. Everybody goes into like warp bubbles.
We're in quantum drive.
Quantum drive, warp bubble, hyperspace, whatever you have is like this area that exists outside of our current space and time. Do you think
there's aliens out there?
Yeah, but I don't know if they're like.
I'm not asking if they've been checking us out. Do you think there's aliens out there?
I think there's life on other planets for sure.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it'd be so sad if we were literally the only planet in the entire infinite universe
I would be upset mostly because what
a waste of space.
Yeah, because I'm like, it's the people here that think we're all important. I'm like, come on, we're not important, and then we end up being the only life. I'm like, crap, we're the best this universe has got to offer.
This is the best the universe has. Like, this is pathetic.
Yeah. We've been fighting each other for thousands of years, and we just can't agree to not do that. Okay, great. There's got to be a higher life form out there, please.
Yeah. Even if it isn't a higher life form, but just something.
Yeah,
there has to be something.
I'll take a cactus, a space cactus at this point.
Just a sentient space cactus.
Ooh, I like that. That'd be a boring existence. Kill me. It's a super intelligent plant that's just bored out of its mind. That's a good life form.
What if there was a vegetable civilization that was able to could actually think for itself and made space travel, and then they traveled here and they see us just eating baby carrots?
So we're like eating their young or whatever. I like that.
Well, the equivalent, yeah.
Well, it's like you ever hear like the mycelial networks that like fungi create below the surface of the ground, and like I think it's the largest living organism is a fungus somewhere. And like they're basically saying that the connections there like equal or somewhere in the vicinity of like a brain, essentially, like having enough like that replicating the synapses of a brain. So they're like, in theory, you could have some sort of intelligent life form there. And there's a lot of people that think that there is this sort of interesting connection between the fungi and the trees communicating in a way that's beyond just maybe basic stuff of like, here's my amino acid levels, I need this instead. So
yeah,
I don't know, there's some weird stuff going on there. And in one of the recent Star Trek shows that I think it was not a good one, Discovery or something, I don't know. Okay. None of them are good, actually, to be fair, so that doesn't really whittle it down.
Doesn't narrow it down.
Their ship, their special secret ship, is traveling on the galactic like mycelial network. So it's like it's like a space fungus, and they figured out how to like tap into it and move this ship around, which is at faster than light speeds, I guess.
Right, of course.
I'm probably not describing it that well, but also it's nonsense, so it doesn't really matter. But
it's literally sci-fi is just fantasy, but in the future.
Yeah. You brought up space vegetables, and I was like, hey, Star Trek did that already.
Yeah, why not?
They got space fungus.
That's cool.
It's good. I like it. Yeah. I don't know if we're ever going to get the whole faster than light thing down, but
we probably won't.
Yeah, I think maybe we'll make a machine race that can travel interstellar for us, and they'll just be like, we'll just power down for the next 100,000 years and power back up once we get to the next system. So
I could see that happening for sure.
Yeah, MBD for us, because I mean, all right, say we all get our Elon Musk chips in our head, right? Our Neuralinks, whatever they're called. And then the next step is like, well, I mean, shouldn't we really just download our consciousnesses into computers? and then all of a sudden we become a digital race, and then
I mean that is a theory, is that the reason maybe why we haven't seen civilizations is that they no longer expand out into the world, out in the universe, because they've gone inwards, right? They just make their utopia inside of their own like, you know, digital,
or maybe they can
framework.
Maybe they figure it out, so there's not really much of a need to go out, because they're like, we know it's out there, it's, you know, the same stuff, or I don't know. It's
just
cool stuff,
or they could be the Zerg and, you know, taking planet after planet, and they just haven't reached us yet. Now that would be horrifying.
Yeah, the Zerg are fun. I don't understand their interstellar travel mechanics. They always show them like farting in space with like big gas clouds around them. I'm not buying the whole interstellar travel with the Zerg. I like the idea of them occupying a planet, but how do they get from one planet to another? That, over the course of a million years I buy it, but you know.
Science magic.
Yeah. Well, in Starship Troopers, the game that the movie, book, movie, whatever franchise everybody's talking about now, because Helldivers is kind of reminding everybody of it, is the bugs send asteroids at Earth. That's how they attack Earth. They somehow get them out of orbit around their bug planet, and they don't really explain how that works, because obviously an asteroid traveling from one solar system to another, it's like, okay, so in millions, incredibly difficult to pull that off. Not only would it be hard to just calculate the trajectory, but it's never going to get there.
It would take a long time. If it did get there, the speed it had to be going would not just destroy a city on the planet, it would obliterate the planet. The planet, the asteroid's not going to fire its retro thrusters and start slowing down, you know. Yeah, that is actually a really good point. That's a very good point. Speaking of Helldivers, it is still somehow maintained its player base and is like actually growing.
Well,
which is
somehow, because nobody's been able to play the thing, you know. The people
that's kind of fair, but you would think that if people weren't able to play, then it would just,
they're waiting.
It would fizzle out, right? Like the interest would die. But
no, I was talking to a friend over the weekend who said he's another dad in the neighborhood, and he was like, I just queue up for Helldivers like in the afternoon when I get back from work, and then by the time I'm done like doing dinner, putting the kids to bed, maybe I'll be into the server and then I could play, but if not, then I'll just turn it off. And I'm like, I wonder how many people are just doing that, where they're like, all right, queue up on my lunch break, and then after work, maybe I'll be into a server.
Well, one way that so I think the server stuff is now relatively resolved. Yeah. But one big solution was they added in an AFK kicker, where after like 15, 20 minutes or something like that, if you're just AFK, it will kick you and you'll have to relog in. So a lot of people were just staying on. Yeah. They weren't logging off because they know what getting in was like. So that was clogging up the servers too.
Yeah. Well, it's good. People are getting in. I'm glad they're having fun with it. All the videos and stuff of it do look very.
I'm surprised you haven't got involved with it.
I've been busy game deving, dude. I mean, I'm kind of an important guy now. I got to make a video game over here. Okay.
Got to make a video game, you know, YouTube channel, kids, you know.
I know. It's one of those things where it's one of the downsides of being a content creator, where I was really busy when the game launched and I didn't have time to check it out. And then by the time I did have time to check it out, it was sort of old news. So covering it at that point just wasn't going to be logical from a content perspective. And so I was like, dang, I do have time to play a game, but now I'm going to play some other games because I can turn that into more relevant content than, hey, I'm looking at Helldivers 2 weeks later or whatever.
Well, I mean, we could do, I think it's still popping. I think there's still interest there. We could do like a squad up. Maybe I could get like Jack and X is finally starting to play. Good to get the old squad back together to take out some bugs.
Well, I mean, speaking of squadding up, there's a thing going down Friday. I don't know if you got the message, but not the old crew, but I'll DM you after the thing.
Okay, slide those DMs,
but I think you might want to
butter me up.
You may want to be involved in this one. It looks cool. Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
You've been watching. You caught up on Masters of Air?
I'm unfortunately did not see the most recent episode. No, but I've heard it's very good.
It is good, man. That show's like my show of the year so far. I mean, granted, it's only almost March, but still.
Show of the year right there.
Yeah, it could be, dude. It's fantastic. It's so good. I can't get enough of it. It's just, it's World War II, man, but it's a fantastic show of World War II. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm all caught up on Slow Dogs now. I finished season 3.
Nice. What'd you think?
Very good. Very funny. I thought season 3 got a little over the top towards the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was sort of like, is this an action show or a spy show now? But
it got a little actiony. It
was fine for the sort of tongue-in-cheek nature of the show. They didn't get too serious with it.
Man, I love, so it's not really spoilery, but when tactical units get called in and they all, like, they're acting very tactical, they're, you know, touching their shoulders, moving in and everything. And then, but then when the actual conflict happens, all tactics get completely thrown out the window. And you're like, what is even happening right now?
The thing that always gets me with those shows, especially when it's like some private military contractors, right? Not even the military, but like PMCs who are literally just getting paid a salary to be there. It's like they send in 5 guys, they all die, and they're like, all right, next 5, go.
Send in the next boys.
Guys, like, here's my resignation. I'll be going this way now. Like, they don't have to go in there.
They don't. They really don't.
But they're always like, all right, next dude through the door. I'll just get mowed down in a hallway. Like, why not?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that stuff always cracks me.
It was a little goofy. But other than that, it's Gary Oldman just does an exceptional job. I think all the actors do really well. He's definitely the highlight.
For sure. I do like I don't know if he's the main character, but kind of the main character. He sort of reminds me of a younger Simon Pegg in a way. He's kind of
kind of. Yeah, he does a little bit, doesn't he?
Yeah, because he's always he's trying to be serious, but he's always screwing up. You know, he's kind of got that sort of can't quite get his stuff together vibe about him, which is fun. Yeah, no, all the characters in that show are great, and I'm excited to see some of the reveals about like his grandpa and stuff, you know, because he's tied up in some stuff. You just don't quite know what it is, and you're like, this is gonna be a fun reveal later. And see who's responsible for what and who is a spy and who actually is the double agent, and all that stuff.
I don't know how many more seasons. Is the 4th season going to be their last, or
it's based on a book, right?
I don't know. Probably everything's based off books, but I don't actually know.
These books, man.
Yeah, who reads books?
Yeah,
who's got time for that?
Yeah, no, it's an excellent show. So I'm watching that. I do want to watch. You know what I want to watch, but I haven't yet.
I have no idea. There's
you
tons
just gave
of shows
me a
out there.
weird look, so I was like, "Are you going to say something?"
No.
The Creator. It didn't get great reviews, but the CGI looks incredible.
Yeah, I thought it got reasonably good reviews.
I think it was kind of like mediocre, but I'm going to check it out just because the CGI looks so good. I want to.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Rotten Tomatoes didn't give it the.
What is it?
67 critic, 76 audience. Which is fine.
That's not that bad. For sci-fi, I'll take it. Especially for a high budget sci-fi, I'll definitely take it.
It doesn't need to be like I hear you.
Yeah.
Man, I do wish there was more high quality. I don't know. My favorite genre is sci-fi and fantasy. Yeah. But a lot of times those are the 2 genres that always just never want to like make good movies. And there's always something bad about them. Like, why?
It's usually the writing somehow.
Yeah.
You're like, come on, this is one of the most popular genres and you can't get a good writer on board.
No, I hear Dune 2 is incredible.
That's it. So is it doing theaters before it comes on streaming? Is that where we're at right now?
Yeah.
I am excited. I mean, we're getting worms, baby. Right?
That's hot. Yeah, we're getting worms,
baby.
We're
getting worms, baby. Not just in our intestines, but in Dune 2.
That's one of my biggest fears is getting something like that.
Oh my God. Yeah. I don't like any of that stuff. All that weird stuff where they're like, I just came out of the hospital and look what they took out of my body. And you're like,
no, okay, we're changing the subject. But yeah, the movie's apparently incredible. Some are saying it's better than the first one.
Well, better because not that together. Much happened in the first one. But yeah.
Yeah, you add both together and it's just it's just some of the best sci-fi.
It's 2 movies, or are they doing 3?
I think he wants to do more, but I believe this wraps up the first book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool,
and
man.
then the next would be Messiah.
Whew. Yeah, well, most Dune fans, and I need to read more of the Dune books because most of them say it gets better, like with the next books, and I'm like, ooh.
Well, I've heard mixed opinions. Some say
fair enough. I think it depends on which book, but there's some really cool, interesting lore in it that explains the universe a lot better. Where they kind of have a lot of low tech, high tech combinations in Dune. You know, they're like fighting with melee weapons, but they have shields.
Well, this was like the books were created in a time when like computers weren't really a thing, right? And so the fact that like all of this,
they address it in the stuff where there's apparently a giant, basically, I think it was like a computer or AI war, basically, where that's where what are the witches called in Dune? The Bene Gesserits, you know them?
Yeah.
I think they were part of overthrowing them. So they needed to create some like sort of super race of human to overthrow the like machines that ruled them.
Well, they use spice to basically enhance themselves, and so they, instead of using computers to calculate, they use their brains. Like they literally become like human computers. That's how they travel through space.
This was told to me. I didn't read this on my own, but I believe that's how they won like a 1,000-year-long enslavement to a machine race or something.
Jesus.
So I think that's why their tech is kind of low, because they're like outlawing most of that like high level computer tech
I think that's also how it works in Warhammer too, is like no AI. You just can't have AI.
I love the idea of it. It is a fun concept because you're like, I mean, we're heading that way, right? I mean, that's
yeah.
That was sort of the talk of at least the last year or so, is like, so are we all going to die from this technology? And most of them are like, yeah, 50-50, you know? And then we're like, okay, go ahead with it, you know?
Cool. Just go for it, buddy.
Yeah. So it's good that they address it in sci-fi, you know? Like, oh, it happens. Yeah. And then you have to like somehow fight your way out of it. And now AI is outlawed. And you're like, okay, that's cool. Dark foreshadowing of our current path in the world, but you know, dear God.
So I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait.
Yeah. Do you know when it's coming out on streaming?
No idea.
Dune
not a clue.
Release date February 25. No way. The 26th. Hang on.
Yeah, well, that's for you said streaming. I don't know when it's coming out for
Dune 2 streaming release date. It comes out on HBO, I think. Spring. Come on, man. What kind of release date is that?
We're almost to spring.
Yeah. I don't know what that means.
What do you mean? You don't know what it means?
Well, I mean, it doesn't give me a date. It says spring.
Oh, okay. Well, I know spring, right? Sometime in spring, and it's almost spring. So we don't have to wait that long.
Yeah. We got on a nice sci-fi tangent today.
We did.
Yeah. What you playing tonight?
Bro, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I like how Pacific Drive. I played Helldivers last night. Waiting on Final Fantasy VII to come out in a couple of days. I don't know. I'll figure it out.
I wish I could approach my days with that kind of lack of knowledge of what's ahead of me. I don't know. I'll just figure it out.
I'll figure it out.
Well, shall we wrap up the pod there?
Sounds good.
All right. Well, for anyone listening, thank you so much for dropping on by. Also apologize for missing a couple episodes on Spotify. Those will be coming up. So those episodes will pop up there. You can download them, listen to them at your work, you know, do your job even better when you're listening to me and Matt talk about video games and stuff. If you want to support the podcast, check out the video description or the podcast description. We have a link to our Patreon where you can become a Patreon member and join our live streams. We've got 3,000 people watching us right now. So you could hop on by, hang out in the comment section of our live stream. And
I'm laughing because it's true.
Because it's true. He's just laughing with all the money he's making. That's a wealth laugh right there.
That's it. Yeah. That's it.
And also drop by the Discord, give some suggestions. I've been reading the suggestions on YouTube, though. It's mostly meme stuff. But we appreciate you all. And Matt's going to send you out with some valuable life advice.
So my valuable life advice this time around is not necessarily advice, but speaking of good fantasy, read Red Rising.
Yeah.
At least the first 3, read Red Rising. It changed my life for the better because it was so good.
I'll read it. You know what's funny is you say that, and Matthew in our comments right now has said like he's talking up Red Rising before you even said that. So that's pretty good.
It's amazing.
Right. That's 2 people right there that have recommended it. I'll check it out.
All you need.
I'll put it on my list. I'm down. I'm down for good sci-fi, man. Hey, it's not often that we get a great sci-fi book or show. You know, it's like there was The Expanse, and then what happened before that? I don't know. Like, it's been a while.
The Dark Ages.
Yeah, I don't know. Battlestar Galactica reboot. That was like 10 years ago.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, we're starved over here. Give us something good. Let us know in the comments also if you got any other good sci-fi book recommendations. I will read them, and
I'm here for it.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. See you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.